Hello, my name is Adrian Williams. I'm the Channel Director for Gamma Service Provider. I'd like to welcome you to the second series of our MVNO series, and I'm joined today by James Gray. Welcome, James.
Good to be here. Thank you, Adrian. Let me do a quick introduction of my own, if that's okay. So my name is James Gray. I'm the Managing Director of Graystone Strategy. Graystone Strategy is a consultancy focused very much on the telecoms market, with a very specific focus on MVNOs, and that is launching MVNOs, helping brands that are thinking they might want to launch an MVNO with their thinking and developing that and taking them to launch. I guess the first question that everyone might ask is, what the hell is an MVNO? So let's cover some of the acronyms in this in the telecoms industry. An MVNO is a mobile virtual network operator. Nobody really needs to know that. All you really need to know is it's a telecom service which is delivered to customers without using your own network infrastructure. So the classic example that everyone understands in the UK is Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile sell through Tesco stores. They own the customer relationship, but they use the O2 network. So that's your MVNO. The other two acronyms that get kicked around quite a lot are MVNE, which is Mobile Virtual Network Enabler. That's a software provider, someone that allows you to do your billing, gives you APIs for your websites and so on. And then the final one is Mobile Virtual Network Aggregator. That is someone who is already plugged into a network and can resell that onto end customers. If you're a mobile virtual network aggregator, you are making your money from selling traffic and space on the network to your MVNOs. Probably it'd be easier if we just talked about telecoms propositions, but as I say, it's an industry fraught with acronyms. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, James. So what we wanted to focus on today was differentiation. And this is, I guess, a key element for any business, particularly a new business or a new proposition coming to market. What would your top of mind be, your advice be for organisations, new MVNOs looking to differentiate?
I think it's a really critical piece of the puzzle for MVNOs. We work in a market which is highly competitive in the UK. And to stand out, obviously, any MVNO needs to be able to differentiate to their customers. No customer ever said they wanted to buy from an MVNO. What they're buying is a service that appeals to them for whatever reason. Whether it's a service that gives them coverage in a place where they haven't had coverage before, whether it's a service that links to their supermarket shopping habits, or whether it's linked to their bank or whatever it might be. So they're buying a service that suits them. When we're advising clients, as we do, about their market entry strategy, we always focus in on this kind of, in our experience globally, probably 8 areas where you can really differentiate your customer experience. You wouldn't necessarily get a full scorecard of 8, but the more you can get in, it makes you more relevant to your customers. So the first is your brand. Whether you're a new startup and you develop a really new and exciting, funky brand, or whether you're an existing brand with lots of brand equity and lots of brand collateral, Red Bull being an extremely good example, you can bring those attributes, you can bring people that love your brand to it. We've seen a lot of football clubs coming out with MVNOs recently. If you love a brand enough to tattoo it on your arm, then probably you love it enough to buy a mobile SIM from them. Now, the second area is channel. Back in the day, and I'm afraid I've been in this industry for far too long, it used to be about having retail channels. Yes. But now, having access to customers, whether it is through a website, whether it's through retail, whether it's through word of mouth, whether it's through being an influencer, having that direct customer channel is something that you are going to monetize as an MVNO. Then we talk a lot about segment. Our big mobile network operators are broad brush. They deal with everyone. The successful MVNOs pull out a particular niche of customers. And niche doesn't necessarily mean small, by the way. This can be a substantial amount of the market, but they build their proposition around the needs of that group, whether that group is people of a certain age, whether that group is people of a certain interest, whatever it might be, building it around a specific segment is important. Of course, solving a customer problem is the best way to get cut through. Whatever that challenge could be. That could be that I'm ticked off with my current network operator because I have to speak to 4 different bots before they'll talk to me. It could be that I'm ticked off about my coverage. Honest Mobile is a really, really good example of someone that's taken a problem built a solution, and done a very, very good job at deploying it to customers. Of course, we have to talk about value. And I'm going to talk about value, not price, right? Typically, back in the day, it used to be that, MVNOs were always the cheapest. Now it's much more focused on delivering the right value equation for the customer. So that maybe you get more minutes, text and data in your bundles at a great price. It may be that you get extra services. It may be that you get a really nice VIP customer care package. So it's all about the value, not necessarily the cost. Customer experience is crucial. Look after your customers and they will look after you. I don't think I need to say too much more about that. But the really strong area is if you can tap into emotion. If you can get customers to join you at an emotional level, and we're kind of back to football again there, really, aren't we? Because that's a lot of emotion in football, and in rugby, to be fair. If you can tap into that emotional appeal, that's going to do well. And of course, always leverage the customer insights. So in terms of differentiating your proposition, that's certainly one of the success factors. I think the next success factor, which I would call out, is the road of MVNOs is strewn with people that thought they could do it as a side project. You can't do that. You need to really focus in, and if you're going to do this, it needs to be strategically important to you. And that's because this is no small undertaking, right? You are taking on a new business. Whether you're a startup or whether you're an existing brand, you're still taking on a new line of business, and you need to be 100% committed to that. Your strategy might be that you're going to become the best telecoms provider in the world ever, and you'll be 100% focused on that. Your strategy might be you're an existing brand looking to expand and take share of wallet from telecoms, maybe integrate it into your loyalty scheme. But you can't do it as a side hustle. And I think that's something that's really important that, customers should understand. I guess to throw it back to you now, because obviously you deal with new MVNOs all the time. Are you seeing that sort of behaviour at all?
Yeah, I think, we've seen it in many scenarios. If the commitment to an MVNO is not right at the top of the organisation, it's normally a good indicator that commitment is not entirely there, and success or lack of success tends to follow in that sort of direction. So having it at the most senior level as a strategic priority, absolutely, because equally investment in resources, money to go and market and drive your proposition is key, and you will need those stakeholders committed to that. So we work with a lot of new MVNOs and look to help them manage and assess the proposition, how they take it to market, what assets they might need, other considerations that they may have. And we can put a sort of wrapped semi-consultancy service around that to help customers sort of accelerate. It's really about how do we get them to market in the most timely fashion, but fully considered and ready for what may come.
And I think that's really important. I think it's really refreshing that you offer that service as well, because obviously, if I am a brand not used to telecoms, there's a very, very steep learning curve. And being able to get the support in the areas where I maybe not have the strength is important. But then you think about all the strengths that brands can bring, whether it is their distribution channel, whether it is their unique insights on the shopper. When you put those two things together, you've got a very, very strong case for building success. And of course, everyone wins from success, right? So Gamma as the MVNA wins because your customer is happy, your customer is consuming wholesale services from you, driving value. The brand is happy because they are now generating revenue or generating more loyal customers or whatever their strategic insight might be. And the customer is happy because they're getting a great service. So that's, all of that is really, really important. I think the other area that we often see organisations struggle with is just the sort of sheer amount of work that is involved in launching an MVNO. It has improved significantly. So back in, 2006, when I was launching MVNOs with people like Asda and BT, it was a very technically complex area and required quite a lot of CapEx. And because of that, it was quite an expensive venture, and often network operators sought insurances, effectively minimum revenue guarantees or whatever it was in order to drive the commercials. Now, my observation of late is as the market has opened up, we talked in the previous session about how the merger between Three and Vodafone has sort of caused a bit of an explosion in the wholesale market and a bit of growth in the MVNO market. As that's happened, we've seen that it's easier for brands to come to market. And again, I'd be interested in your perspectives on that as well, again, because you're dealing with these brands all the time.
Many years ago, networks would require huge commitments, which I guess would in themselves almost prohibit, MVNOs coming to market. But, with so many more brands looking to come to market with an MVNO proposition, and technically things are easier to some respect. Tariffs, for example, have become much simpler and much more straightforward. Things like that make it much easier. And for us, really, it's about how do we help them get to market. There are so many elements, the commercial, contractual discussions, and we think, we found a really good balance between making sure that, we fully assessed with a partner the opportunity. We see them demonstrating their commitment to that. And look, until these propositions actually come to market, you can do all the numbers that you want, but you really don't know until you have identified that sort of sweet spot. And what we're seeing more now with customers is, rather than signing up to huge sort of commitments, we will manage them through a period where they test the market. They start to identify, look, what channels work, what proposition works, and then they start to really step in with their investments. So rather than going all guns blazing on day one, which can drain the resources very, very quickly, they start to take a more progressive approach. And we try and encourage that because it also helps us sort of see where we can step in to support them also. That's
a really good point, Adrian, actually. The whole idea of the journey, rather than, when we're working with clients, there's a phrase I like to use. It's an ex-military phrase. It's no plan survives first contact, right? So you can plan, you can build the most wonderful MVNO proposition in the world, you can deploy it to market, and then you've got customers and they just don't do as they're told. And I think that's what's really interesting, is this sort of iterative approach, working in partnership with your MVNO or MVNX ecosystem to be able to react to changes, change them, build new tariffs, seek assistance in different areas. And I think that is incredibly important for the sustained long-term growth of the MVNO, because MVNOs are a long-term business, right? We would never do a business case for our clients for anything less than 5 years. It's a big strategic kind of bet. And having that level of support, whether it's through your MVNA, whether it's through consulting services like my organisation does, or just through buying in, industry experience into the organisation, is really, really important. Because the one thing I say to our customers when launch is, the only thing I can guarantee for you after you launch is that in 6 months' time, it's all going to be different, because customers will have given you feedback, you'll have found what's working and what's not working, you'll have tweaked your model. And so this whole idea of it being, an iterative journey, a journey where everyone works together to grow this fledgling business, effectively, I think is a really important one.
Yeah, agree. And I think planning in advance for those sort of growth spurts, growth pains, is something that certainly we look to work with partners on. Over a sort of 3-year period, there will be natural steps, and it can be that they will hit a glass ceiling at some point. So how do you push beyond that level to go to the next? So yeah, thank you.
So one of the questions that we often get asked as consultants is, which is best? Do I go to work with a mobile network operator, or do I go and work with an MVNA? And it's one of those impossible questions, right? Because you can only ever give a politician's answer, which is, well, whichever's best for your business at that particular time. But I think there are some real advantages working with an MVNA. And from my perspective, it brings you speed to market. It brings you, maybe accelerates your business, and comes back to that point you made earlier about being able to learn as you go. But if I was to ask that question of you, which is better, to have a direct deal with a mobile network operator or with Gamma specifically as an MVNA. How would you answer that question?
Many of the partners that we've seen and had discussions whether they've ended up coming through Gamma or otherwise, I think their preference has been the default they wanted to be with the MNO. But I don't think they've fully kind of considered the implications of that. These are huge organizations. You will need to make a significant commitment to them over an extended period of time. Big organizations tend not to move as quickly as smaller organizations. Commercially, they will probably be less flexible than organizations like Gamma. Time to market is key. So, if you're looking to do within a reasonable time period, then I would certainly say that an MVNA is going to be best placed to kind of get you there. I think there's quite a few other elements as well. So, from a Gamma perspective, we would look to provide other supporting services, which you may not get from an MNO, and they can be quite critical, like we were talking about earlier, at the early stages. That's a critical point. A lot of businesses, as well as MVNOs, fail within a 12-month period, and you've probably got more stats than I do on that, but that's a critical point, and that early assistance and support can be really critical. So it is down to the organization, but I guess I would say time to market, other supporting services, vested interest in your business, because if you win, we win. That's I would say probably a better route to take.
And I guess we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that the mobile network operators have MVNAs for exactly that reason, right? They know that they can't deal with a huge volume of new people wanting to plug into their network. Every new route into that network is a technical project.
Yes.
And most mobile network operators that I know have quite a long list of technical projects that they need to do for their own customers. So the whole purpose of the MVNA is to be like a multi-plug into that network that you can just plug people in. And so, I've certainly heard instances where the mobile network operators refer customers to their MVNA exactly, because they know that that's the right thing for them.
Yes.
But of course, the MVNOs, the mobile network operators, are still involved because they're still managing the network and still gaining value from it as well. So I think it can be a real virtuous circle.
James, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's always a really interesting discussion, covering differentiation, which is absolutely key. We spoke about MNO versus MVNA and what are the preferred sort of routes maybe that you should consider. I think it's probably worth me sharing some of the insights that we get back from some of our partners, is that they look at their portfolios as expanding beyond MVNO and into the broader sort of segment that is telecommunications. And again, we at Gamma find that as one of the areas where we look to provide longer term opportunity to our MVNO partners with an entire portfolio of telecommunications capabilities. So again, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure. Really appreciate it, and hope to see you soon. Do look out for the next few episodes of our MVNO series, where we talking about the different MVNO segments that we see: entrepreneurial, brands, and alternative networks.